In the beginning of the movie, Santi is woken from sleep inside his van by the sunrise. His awakening is interrupted by policewoman Bigona, who reminds Santi that he can't park his van by the port harbor. Santi arrives late for his job and is offered a final salary by his employer Romulo. Before leaving, he has to clean the yacht's bathroom first. Later in the day, he goes for a drive, but runs out of petrol. Santi walks to the nearest station and talks to his friend Pedro, who is working there. They discuss their upcoming class reunion, but Santi says he can't make it. He opts to go to a legal meeting with his estranged wife Mate. At the meeting, the couple is informed that they are to split their assets upon their upcoming divorce. Mate wants to know how quickly the divorce will be valid, but is shocked to hear it will take months. Santi and Mate leave together, but Mate abruptly goes her separate way. Santi gets pulled into a conversation with a stall owner and ends up buying a lottery ticket. He puts the ticket with his cigarettes and leaves. Later in the evening, Santi meets up with another friend Marcos at the reunion. Pedro also arrives and begins to brag about how the women at the function are enamored with him. Santi sees Mate share a moment with fellow classmate Mario. Mate comes over and reveals that Mario is her new boss at her job at the supermarket. Santi gets really jealous, but leaves. Santi and his friends laugh about the situation until they get another look at Mario with Mate. Elsewhere, Mate talks with her friend Lorna about her possible relationship with Mario. She hasn't told her parents about the divorce, nor has she fully accepted it deep down. Later in the night, Santi comes to his house and goes to the couch. Not remembering his ticket, he throws it away. The next day, Santi starts to take a shower, listening to the radio about the lottery. He finally remembers the ticket he bought and rushes to the garbage to find it. After frantically searching, he finds it and yells with joy. Santi tries to call Mate to tell her the good news, but she doesn't answer. He drives to see her, but he meets Mate and Mario. He thinks they are kissing, but in reality, Mate turns Mario's kiss away. Santi goes to cash in the winning ticket of 25 million euros at the bank, but gets nervous and tries to leave. Bank manager Damien tries to stop him, but Santi drives away. Santi is surprised as Damien appears in his van, insisting on giving Santi financial advice about the money he's won. Santi is then pulled over by Bigona, who begins to lecture him about his poor driving. Damien interrupts, revealing Santi won the lottery. Hearing this, Bigona simply congratulates Santi and walks away. Over lunch, Damien continues to advise Santi over financial matters. Damien asks about Santi's personal life and informs Santi he would have to give Mate half of his winnings upon the divorce. Damien suggests Santi keep the winnings secret from Mate until the divorce is settled. Santi doesn't want to lie to Mate, who ends up showing up with Mario. Santi is jealous again and pretends to be a valet to fool Mate. As she leaves, Damien comes back and Santi agrees not to tell anyone, especially Mate. A few days later, Santi goes to see Mario, who had offered him a job. They clash during the discussion, but Santi ends up with a job as shelf stalker. After that, Santi goes to try on some new clothes and accessories to match his windfall of money. Leaving one of the shops, Santi notices Mario and his family across the shopping center. He runs into a nearby shop and asks the worker to hide him. Santi then drives back home, hiding his new belongings. Santi begins to celebrate around his home, but is cut short as Mate comes home unexpectedly. Mate comes and talks to Santi about his new job at the supermarket. Santi tries to hide his clothes and watch for Mate, who suspects something is up. That evening, Santi goes to a very fancy hotel restaurant that Damien has reserved for him. Santi's friends message about his whereabouts, but he ignores them. While he is being served, he notices a young lady named Christina across the room, and they smile at each other. Sometime later, Marcos and Santi pick up Pedro to go have fun surfing. At the beach, they enjoy the waves as they all catch some nice surf. They get back onto land and Marcos suggests they have some drinks later on, but Santi declines, lying that he has no money. The topic changes to the lottery, Pedro and Marcos talking bad about the winner, who they don't know is right beside them. Santi defends himself while trying to hide the truth, brushing their questions as if he won as a joke. The trio see Mario on the beach and go get food and drinks while they watch him surf. To their shock, Mario is an excellent surfer. During the drive back, the trio try to downplay Mario's skill, claiming they were not taking the surfing seriously. Suddenly Bigona pulls over their vehicle, and Santi hides in the backseat. Bigona demands to see Pedro's backpack, and finds an illegal substance. Bigona orders Pedro and Marcos out of the car, and notices Santi in the backseat. Bigona recognizes Santi, and hints at his newfound wealth, so Bigona releases the trio. Back in his hotel, Santi wakes up late for work at the supermarket. He trades clothes to disguise himself, but comes across Pedro at the gas station. Pedro is unable to see Santi, and he is driven away. Arriving, he apologizes to his co-worker Tania and is confronted by Mate, who asks him about his whereabouts the night before. He tells her the truth, but she doesn't believe him. Mario shows up and reprimands him for his tardiness, but Mate covers for Santi. Later in the day, Santi sees Aritz, a legendary surfer, to help Santi improve his surfing ability. They practice in the ocean, Aritz giving Santi plenty of tips and pointers over some days. One day, Mario happens to spot the two together and is extremely confused and shocked. Later that night, Santi gets a call from Pedro and Marcos, and he tells them about his time with Aritz. They think he's lying because of depression and invite him out. He declines, much to his friends' confusion. The next day, Santi goes with Damien to buy Romulo's boat. Romulo is shocked as Santi is the one buying the boat. Eventually, Santi gets a good deal and becomes the owner of the boat. He also has Romulo clean the bathrooms as well. Later on, Damien and Santi discuss some of their investments, but run into Pedro and Marcos. They notice Santi's nice clothes and he comes up with a lie about how the clothes are for a new job. But as Santi tries to ask how they have been, they remind him that he has been avoiding them for a while and leave. That night, Santi and Damien arrive at Santi's home after a fancy meal. Once inside, he is surprised by Mate's parents Laura and Miguel. Santi struggles to eat more while Mate discusses a family function with Laura. Miguel is delighted with the cheap wine, which Santi has switched out with expensive wine. Laura notices Santi isn't feeling well, and Santi runs to the bathroom. Laura asks Mate about her marriage, and she lies, saying everything is fine. Upon his return, Miguel notices Santi's fancy watch. Santi lies about the price, so Miguel asks Santi to buy him one. Santi's phone begins to ring, but he refuses to answer it or even admit that it's his. After being pressured to answer, Santi reveals to Mate's parents they are getting a divorce. Later on at the hotel bar, Santi sees Cristina again and goes to introduce himself. Upon a bit of discussion, he finds out that she is a professional escort. She gives him her business card and leaves. Down in the dumps, Santi takes a walk, seeing his friends Pedro and Marcos at their local hangout. Back at the hotel, Santi plays with his new gadgets but also seems extremely sad and alone, despite all his wealth. Santi finally calls Damien and begins to put a plan in motion. At the gas station, Pedro is approached by a woman who compliments his physique. Pedro later tells Marcos that he is offered an entire modeling contract. Santi arrives and goes to sit alone, but is invited back with Pedro and Marcos. They tell Santi about the modeling, who isn't surprised for some reason. Later, Marcos is at home with his 2 children, extremely stressed out. He tries to situate things with the kids as Lorna comes home with exciting news about Marcos receiving an inheritance. Elsewhere, Damien and Santi discuss Santi's plans for his 2 friends, both modeling and inheritance while the 2 play golf. Santi sees Mario and Damien reveals that Mario had come to the bank for a loan to sell his business and fire his employees. Santi disguises as a caddy when Mario approaches, asking why Santi isn't at the supermarket. Back at the supermarket, Tania asks Mate about the supermarket closing, but Mate claims they are just rumors. Santi tries to tell Mate about what he has found out, but is interrupted by Mario, who tells Mate about how he saw Santi on the golf course. Mate gets angry at Santi and tells him to leave their house. As Santi leaves the supermarket, Marcos and Pedro arrive in a brand new convertible. They take Santi and drive around in excitement. Santi is frustrated that Marcos didn't buy things his family needed and Marcos questions why Santi has to care about that. Santi eventually tells the group that the car was bought with his money, but they don't believe him. Marcos accidentally drives the car off a cliff, and Santi yells out his big secret on the way down. The next morning, Mate gets a call from Mario, so Santi calls Cristina to make Mate jealous. The same night, both Mate and Santi have a very awkward date with Mario and Cristina, neither enjoying their experience. Santi and Mate arrive home at the same time. They both lie about what actually happened, pretending to be happier with their new partners. At work, Mate suddenly gets a call from Mario about the supermarket. He tells them all the supermarket is closing, but lies that he tried to stop that from happening. Santi tries to comfort Mate and invites her to dinner. Back at home, Santi has the house cleaned and dinner made as Mate arrives. During dinner, Santi expresses his disbelief about the divorce. They kiss and apologize for the wrong things they've done to each other. He confesses he won the lottery, and Mate leaves in disbelief. She then finds all the things Santi has hidden in the shed and asks why he didn't tell her. Later on, Marcos and Santi attend a party for Pedro, who is upset over the negative reaction to his modeling. Both Marcos and Pedro blame Santi for ruining their lives and leave. The next day, Santi wakes up and calls Damien to enact some plans he has decided on. They meet, settle matters and split ways, becoming emotional because they won't see each other again. Lorna is with Mate, telling Mate to sue Santi for half his winnings. She suddenly sees a message that half of Santi's winnings has been deposited in her bank account. She also receives the divorce papers she has been waiting on. However, Mate realizes that she still loves Santi and even gets a call the supermarket is opening again. Reaching the market, Tania informs Mate that a mysterious person has bought the supermarket, as Damien finalizes some documents. Mate goes to tell Mario the good news, but overhears his true plans about selling the store. Mario shoots back that she is still in love with Santi. Damien interrupts and lets her know Mario has been fired. Damien also tells her she has been made director of the supermarket. Mate rushes to go find Santi but Bigona is writing her a ticket. Upon hearing Santi's name, Bojna gives Mate a ride to the airport where Santi is. Mate runs to find Santi, missing him multiple times but finally finds him and she slaps him, but ends up kissing and embracing. A year later, Santi and his friends are at a gathering, and Mario arrives, severely overweight with an ominous message. The end. Thanks for watching. Bye.